let's indicate that I.
I wanted to make sure my computer sound isn't coming through the computer, through the Zoom. If it is, it's a big problem to fix it. Hopefully it's not. Are you hearing my computer?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not hearing your computer if you're talking.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend, my imaginary friend.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just get to my notes. My agenda dropped me in right at the item 8 for adjournment. So is that where you guys are?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Do
can
we have a
skip
motion?
around.
I move.
Okay, so this recording is started. And let's see, I'd like to, were we waiting for others that were having similar problems?
We are complete in assisting those who are having problems getting in. And so we are absolutely ready to begin
Okay.
your meeting.
Okay, well, I'd like to call this meeting of the California Commission on Disability Access to order on this day, January 12th, I believe it is, 2022. With that, Adam, if you could review our protocols and procedures for the meeting.
And so Adam is out, but we have Teresa.
Okay, Teresa, sorry about that.
No problem. This committee meeting will be on Zoom and via teleconference only. There is no physical location being made available to the public. In accordance with Assembly Bill 361, extending the Bagley-King flexibility through January 31st, 2022, teleconferencing restrictions are waived during the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, committee members are not required to list the remote locations, and members of the public may participate either by Zoom or teleconference from any location. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak, and we will give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting, at which time they can unmute themselves. If you're attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical difficulties throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov.
So I believe that's it. So
Yes.
now, Teresa, could you take roll for us for agenda item number 1?
Yes. Chair Commissioner Downey,
Present.
Vice Chair Commissioner Wheelie. Vice Chair Commissioner
Sorry.
Wheelie.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Past immediate Chair Commissioner Lemus,
Present.
Commissioner Paravanya,
Present.
Commissioner Holloway,
Present.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Present.
Chair Commissioner Downey, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. So are there other members, people in the audience that you would like to identify for us?
Yes,
This is Commissioner Drake Diller, just
Oh.
attending.
Hi, Commissioner Diller.
I believe there are a number of, I believe there's one mother commissioner in attendance on the phone. Is that correct?
I see we have Michael Chen from Assembly Member Mayan Shine's office. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. He says hello.
We also have a representative from Nina Christian from Senator Brian Jones' office.
Yes, hello, everyone.
And
Welcome.
we have Preston Romero from Office of Assembly Member Janet Nguyen's office.
And he says, good afternoon.
I believe we have identified all of
Okay.
the
Thank you, Teresa.
commissioners. Yes.
Right. So at this time, yes,
Commissioner Downey, I do believe there was a number of public members who
yes.
were also wanting to identify themselves along with our legislators and commissioners. Did you want
Excuse-
to at this time
Yes.
say your name or say it in the chat? I'm noticing a little bit both.
My apologies to interrupt. Chair Commissioner Downey, Karina Roy has just joined us.
And she is from Department of General Services. Keep going, Teresa, you're doing great.
Yes, I'm just scrolling down to make sure I've identified everyone. Yes, I have mentioned everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Chair
Then,
Commissioner Downey.
all right. So at this time, if there are any members of the public that would like to identify themselves, please do so at this time. There any chats or anything happening from members of the public?
Thought we had one earlier. Teresa, this is Angela. I thought I saw one of our Fresno
Yes,
colleagues.
we have Shannon Mohall, ADA Coordinator for Fresno.
Is that the only member of the public today?
Yes, we also have Michael Jemneski.
Okay.
Hello, Mike Janeski with the Contractor State License Board. Thanks.
Hi, welcome.
Chair Commissioner Downey, I believe we've identified
Okay,
all of the individuals for you.
thank you, Teresa. And so then we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of our prior executive committee meeting, which was held on October 13th, 2021.
This is Commissioner Holloway. I move approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Hudson, I'll second.
Thank you. And before we do that, were there any questions, comments, discussions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion, any abstentions? It appears the motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, sorry. So item 3, if there are any comments from members of the public that are on the call today on items that are not on the agenda. If you have questions or comments, please notify staff by raising your digital hand.
Chair Commissioner Downey, we do not see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 4. So this will be the CCDA Executive Director Report. So Angela, that's you.
Yes, thank you. I have want to begin with the ever-pressing discussion that I and the world is talking about continuously. It's regarding the COVID-19, what we call the COVID-19, although the name of it has changed in a lot of different directions as we've journeyed along these last 2 years. We have been identified for the Bagley King to extend out how we are operating in our operations for meetings. And we want to first begin by identifying that the Bill AB 361 has been extended again has been extended until March 31st, 2022. So what does that mean? We have made some schedules, and this is what for us, where we have to really wrap our brain around in terms of how we want to operate. And we're glad to hear that there is some wiggle room in the process by this extension. So we have on our screen right now indicating the Governor Newsom signed executive order in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In summary, it identifies the order extends the sunset of AB 361, which the governor signed in September, originally in September, to extend the flexibilities provided in a prior executive order, enabling public agencies to meet remotely during the COVID-19 emergency. Under the order signed on January the 5th, the state bodies are permitted to continue holding public meetings via teleconference through March 31st. There is a full text of what the order looks like, and I should say reads, also available within CCDA's support documents, but that is the summary of this order. So what does that mean? We have created a calendar, as you all know, based on a recommendation at the time that we knew that our timeline of which the extension was to be end of January. So again, I have before you the calendar that was created and approved by you all at our last board meeting, indicating that we would have potentially hybrid meetings for the full commission and the executive. The legislative committees, the checklist committee, and the education committees will remain the same as always as a teleconference meeting. But we thought, and this is again what we are recommending and from the time, but again, things are changing constantly. And that we were considering that we would develop a strategy of hybrid meetings where some of the potential leaders could come to Sacramento at a meeting. For example, as we move into April, we were thinking even more so that they could come and have a halfway physical meeting here, as well as those who can call in. But again, we were under the impression that because they were going to be required to be at a identified location, as prior to the extension, you had to be in a publicly noted location. So you couldn't be at your home, or if you were at your home, you would have to make it publicly available to those who were wanting to participate wherever you designated as your public calling from. So now we have a new extension, so into March 31st. So we still have April, July, and October as identified as hybrid in Sacramento. Hybrid meetings, Sacramento, potentially Sacramento. Any questions, comment on from that perspective or thoughts in regards to this topic?
This is Commissioner Downey. I'd just like to add and clarify that to the extent you wanted to welcome members of the public into your homes, they would need to be accessible. The homes would need to be.
Yes, yes.
I have a question. So when you have here, for example, Wednesday on the executive committee, April 6th, you just put Sacramento, but it is also hybrid.
So we were, this is something that we wanted to discuss with you all, in that the executive team is you all here. So there's 5 of you at this point, chair, vice, I may have my numbers wrong, chair, vice chair, media past president, and then 3 heads of, so that's 7. We have an opportunity to have a nice facility to host that size of a committee in one room with a dais, which is right next door to us, and the Cannabis Control Agency. They have also a large conference room that would hold, is bigger than our facility here, that they also have been meeting with us to talk about how they're upgrading their sound system and their screens to provide an opportunity for us to have a hybrid meeting if we were to use it there. This is one of the biggest concerns for me is that while we're trying to say we want to create a active, robust meeting experience, we need to make sure we have the equipment. CCDA do not have in our facility right now equipment to support a hybrid. So we would have to borrow from our neighbors or participate. They've already welcomed us to participate in their facilities, and they're working on even upgrading it. So we are in a good position from that perspective of working with another agency who has finances and have already put in motion some upgrades to their facility. We've been working with the property managers here, and there's a facility downstairs that is also being looked at by another agency to upgrade it, which we used to use. If those of you recall, Victims Comp had the conference room where they were able to host most of our full commission meetings because they have a huge dais and sound equipment. And also it was, at the time, it doesn't exist now, but at the time they had the equipment to actually live stream the board meeting. It was somewhat old old equipment, so the visuals wasn't all that great, but it has potential. That particular room is now being in contract with another state agency, and we are in communications with them to see if we can partner with them to use it. We're trying to kind of think forward thinking in terms of potential once pandemic restrictions are reduced. How can we include both the I think
Sorry, somebody needs,
someone,
this is Commissioner Downey, somebody needs to mute their phone, their computer.
so we are looking at ways, and it is something that is a moving target because of the pandemic. As we said, luckily there's a little bit more time to continue as we're doing now. But we are thinking that the pandemic the restrictions are be lessened, and maybe possibly this extension will end, and we will need to have a facility of which could host and still create an environment that allow more people. We want to be accessible. We want to have as many people to join our meetings. And if it is in a distant future, we want to be prepared to be able to welcome them into a facility that truly has the equipment, the technology that could host a meeting appropriately. I see Commissioner Holloway's hand.
Hey, Angela, I'll reach you offline, but I'm thinking of a location that would accommodate the commission, as many guests as we might have, is fully accessible and likely has the technology that you need. So I'll reach you about that offline.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really tough because we're in this world that says, you know, you're not going to meet together, but we know eventually it's going to change. And so we're trying to figure out how to work now in this world that we're given, as well as prepare for the future. And so I thank you, Commissioner Holloway, for helping in this discussion.
And this is Commissioner Downey. I'd like to add that if it sounded as if some of these other agencies that might make their space available, or if for any other outside venue, especially if they're considering getting new equipment, to be sure to have them, if you can, politely ask them to make sure it's accessible, that they have actual buttons on the microphones that can be turned and off instead of a touchscreen.
Indeed. That's why we're so welcome, honestly, because I use that example of, as you and I experienced at a brand new facility, I should say brand new equipment that they had purchased, and it was non-accessible. And I said, they just bought it. And so people are actually welcoming my presence because of the fact that we kind of bring thought to something they never thought about, which is a good thing in some ways. Kind of bad because I'm not the expert in everything and I shouldn't have to, but I'm glad to be able to bring some consideration as they're preparing and buying equipment. Because I've talked to someone else and they said they ran into the same similar with chairs, that they did not consider accessible chairs, and it was a brand new facility.
Thank you.
So moving from that, as we're trying to prepare, many of you I might have shared that we're looking at how, as we're working in telework environment here currently, because we do have a mandate by the governor to telework as much as possible, as feasible, and so we are. But how to do that? We need to have equipment in terms of communications that is also available to us when we're teleworking, not to expect our staff to use their own personal phones to call out. And so DGS, ETS is working with us on what they call team smartphone. So we were looking as a rollout this month to receive new phone numbers. And again, because of who we are, we said, is it accessible? Because we need to make sure those phone lines are available for, even if I had a staff who has hearing disability or a stakeholder who calls in. We want to be able to make sure that tool works both ways. And that has been a pause in trying to make sure that is true. But the good thing about it is the consideration is still giving us a layer of the soft, what they call team smartphones. And so we would then be providing you all new numbers once that rolls out. So that is expected to be sometime this month. And the downside of it all is that is moving forward. They're moving into this team smartphone, and they're not supporting our landlines, our phones that we have now. So we would have to find some other way of supporting those phones if we were to say that if it turned out that they never could find accessible phones or confirm that they're not, we will keep our system that we have now and then figure out how to support it otherwise. But that's happening right now. Again, all about the telework support as well as how we can continue to telework. Right now, again, we are doing a rotational telework schedule, but we are not, we could increase it once we have more tools to support remote working. The other aspect that I wanted to share, and it's a little bit part of partnership as well as just our outreach efforts, and the partnership is, as was mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, Rex Himes is retiring. And for many of you, well, I don't know if all of you know that we actually have a seat identified by the property associations, and it is being held by our vice chair, Doug Wheeling. And so he represents a property association. And from the standpoint that, for those who do not know the history, Rex Himes has been a champion for CCDA before we were even conceived. And as we have been moving along, trying to be successful for the state of California, he personally has been, I would say, a true champion for CCDA, and he is retiring. And Doug, Commissioner Wheeler, you may want to add more to the discussion, but I do know that the key point for me is his retirement reception that's occurring very soon. One of them, I should say.
So the history is that Rex Heim, as the CEO and president of California Business Properties Association, in a conversation with Centers for Independent Living, was looking for a forum by which dialogue between the business community and the disability community might be improved. And out of that conversation came CCDA. That is to say, Rex, California Business Properties, in partnership with Centers for Independent Living, are our progenitors. And Rex has been serving the real estate industry since the early 1980s. It's been a struggle for him in the last decade. I mean, he's moving on in age. He's strong. He's a cancer survivor. But it has become time at CBPA where we needed to move leadership up. Matt Hargrove has resigned as our registered lobbyist and has taken over as president and CEO. And Rex is taking on a special projects role. And I have to say, Rex is really proud of us, very fond of us, a big advocate of the disability community and what we have accomplished. And yes, there will be what Rex and others are describing as an old style political reception at the Hyatt Regency in Sacramento on Wednesday, February 16th from 4:30 to 6:30. One of these drop-ins, say hello, stay as long as you want, leave as soon as you want. And we, all of us, are invited to attend. I will be there. I'm sure Angela will be there. If there are other commission members who intend to drop by, I'll be happy to be there the whole time as a point of reference and make sure that you all get a chance personally to meet one of the champions in my life, Rex Heim.
This is Commissioner Paravani. Wouldn't it be appropriate for this commission to author some sort of resolution acknowledging Rex's contribution and thanking him on behalf of the commission?
I think it would be entirely appropriate, and Rex is both a giver and collector of resolutions. Doing that, Michael, would speak directly to who he is. He is all about recognizing others and would be most flattered if we were to recognize him on his office wall.
I
It
believe we
sounded like a
should.
motion, Michael,
Oh, yeah, let's use that as a motion.
and I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay. This is Commissioner Downey. It seems like things are running on, so I'll ask if there are any further comments or discussions, questions about that motion. If not, I'll ask for all those in favor. Aye.
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 All those opposed?
I will suggest a footnote to that, Mr. Chairman, for consideration at another time. Angela knows this, on March 24th in Newport Beach that evening is the every other year CBPA awards dinner, at which Rex is being formally recognized by CBPA, BOMACAL, NAIOP, and a number of other organizations, sort of his formal celebration. And Angela, if you were of a mind to attend that dinner and speak on behalf of the disability community briefly.
When is it?
It is March 24th, Thursday, at the Renaissance Hotel next to the airport in Orange County.
Oh, it's down south.
I can attend that.
So can I.
Dr. Sue.
Yeah, I would like, I'm having surgery on February 9th for my foot. But I'll probably be on a scooter, but it's a very significant event. And if it's going to be that close to me, I would like to attend. I've worked with Rex probably most of the years that CCDA has been in existence. So I would like the honor and privilege.
I will get to Angela and to the rest of you information about that dinner that evening.
Okay, thank you.
Rex has been a great friend, and I am so in support of doing a resolution, and to the extent that some of us can be present to show how important he was to us. I think that is, and if I even have to come on my little scooter, I will. Little knee scooter, but I will absolutely do that and put that on my calendar. Thanks, Doug, for making that very appropriate motion.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doug. This is Commissioner Downey again. I did want to raise the question of the mechanics of this, of how we're going to get this done. Not the resolution. I'm spacing on the word for it, but the plaque, whatever it is. How we're going to get
Yes,
that?
resolution.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll need to get that produced, authored, produced, and then presented. So if staff can wrestle that through.
Yes. So I will work on that. And as we had for our 10-year anniversary, but I do know there is a definite process, and so I'll be working on that.
Okay. Great. Thank you all.
So from there, I know that we have a number of opportunities with our board in terms of moving staff, moving forward. We have a number of reappointments going on. And so I will share with you that at the full commission, we'll probably have a number of reappointment celebrations, as well as opportunities to celebrate those who have continued on or have served on the board I did receive a letter of communication from one of our commissioners indicating that she is moving to Texas, and that is Commissioner Tiffany Allen. And so I would like to just let you all know that I would like to carve out time for our recognitions and our full commission meeting at the end of the month, on the 26th. So again, as I was talking about partnerships, we have had, and I won't spend as much time this time, I'll spend a little bit more time at the full commission meeting. We've been meeting with some cities. I've been really excited about some of the cities I've met with, some of the desires to really champion some of the things that we are interested in. And so I will spend more time on the full commission meeting and talk about that, but I've talked to a couple of cities and worked with them, and they're really want to partner with CCDA. So that's really exciting. So from there, I will end my report for the executive reporting for executive meeting today.
Thank you. This time, were there any questions regarding this agenda item? This is open
Sure.
to members of the public and commission. Yes.
Chair Commissioner Downey, I do not see any commentary in the chat from the public.
Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 5, budget reporting. All right, so can Phil McFall lead this item?
Yeah, we're having an interesting week over here at CCDA. Phil is out. He's out ill, and so I will be handling that one today. But it's really a general review that I wanted to just highlight because, as many of you know, the governor submitted his budget approval on the 10th, I believe it was. And so our budget, as we've identified prior to, at our last full commission meeting, we identified some, so I should say 2 points that I want to make. One is that the governor has given his budget, and there's a slight revision to what we have presented today, and I will identify what that is. And the second point is we've identified some projections. CCA had projected a couple different endings at the close of the year, and I'll start with that. The closing of the year report has not been finalized by our accounting, and so these are still projected numbers that I hope to, if not at the end, at the full commission meeting, to be able to share during the next couple months. But they are busily working on identifying closed year in expenditures, and without wanting to give false numbers and maybe miscue some of our projections, we will report on that later. But again, we have presented our total budget that we have presented was $1,521,000. That number has slightly changed after the governor's proposal budget for CCDA. There was a little bit of reduction in our staff compensations and overall budget. For our budget drill, we had a reduction that was identified. So overall, it wasn't too much of a shave from our original projected expected expenditures. So it was 157 million, excuse me. Now it's $1,462,000. So it's about 118 reduction in our budget. But overall, not a bad change from when we were scraping along at 600,000 for the last couple of years. So that is all I wanted to share in terms of our current budget authority. Hopefully we'll have some more better numbers for you at our full commission meeting. However, I do have some really great numbers that I do want our board to hear and to consider and to mull over, as we have talked about this before, and that is regarding our revenues. Yes, CCDA, for some of you, if this is your first time listening, CCDA actually have revenue. And the revenue between 2015 to 2019 was $99,000. Again, we have to be very, show our appreciation to the Department of Finance, who has said, we understand that CC never had access to those monies. And so we have made two key provisions for CCDA and to be able to expend that funding. So one provision is that while the law has now been given and approved by the legislation to identify that CCDA has until June 30th, 2024 to encumber or expend, which is a key factor for us because typically our budget is annual. If we don't spend it, it goes back to the general fund. This provision has given us to 2024 to encumber some of it or to expend it. And that's a nice opportunity for us to start thinking about and come up with a strategy of how we're going to use that fund in a particular way. Additionally, because of the timing of this provision, they also gave us another key provision, and that is that the dollar amounts that was being collected for 2021 fiscal year at the time had not concluded when they gave us this provision. And so the dollar amount of the fiscal year 2021 will be added into the delayed encumbrance. So we will, and actually the dollar amount came out to about $20,000 for that year. And so we will add $20,000 to the 99, potentially the 99, and then that will be a part of our 3-year or 2-year plan of usage. So I wanted us to think about it because many of you have been saying, wow, we got some revenue, we should do something special with it. And indeed, that is something I do want you to consider. One of the things that has been talked about is reaching out to companies who can create apps. And the apps that we were thinking about was in the area of our checklist. We have a checklist, as you know, that's been highly used by our local jurisdictions. And the opportunity for us to continue to have the checklist committee present I'm sorry, I'm getting pop-ups on the screen. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Just one moment. Okay, so one of the things that we have our checklist doing is having our subject matter experts to review our checklist and ensure that it is updated on a timely basis. And at times, we've had it where we made a change and then there were still changes that occurred right after we printed it. So the flexibility of this tool needs to be a little bit more in sync. And that's something that we would like to consider as a possibility. So I present this general concept to you, but also at the full commission, I would like for you to just think about if there's any other projects that you think the CCDA should consider as something we would want to embrace and continue on. I'm definitely looking forward to any other thoughts, but that is one project that we wanted to consider as part of this funding.
Angela, this is Commissioner Paravani. Is there a way of putting an app together that would have the checklist and other resources that have been developed by the commission? So it'd be kind of a more robust statement about the work we've done to date?
I just knew, just open up discussion will bring some great ideas instantly. And indeed, That's great. We've been talking to a number of people, and apps is just the culture of our world. You know, people
It
using
is.
apps. And so if to consider even more on an app for CCDA, I think that's brilliant. So that is another great thought.
I think it would help broaden the draw to our commission, and would also be a tool that could be in the hands of more people. I was doing some work about a week ago, and I was talking with somebody about disability etiquette. And it was somebody I felt would really know this stuff. And she had not heard the term person first language, which I found astonishing.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have all kinds of things on there that could give people some fundamental information that they could build from.
This is Commissioner Lemus. I think what you hit on, Commissioner Paravagna, is that, you know, the disability community has been varied, and it has different genesises and struggles. And the people first language was primarily a creation of the self-advocacy movement of people with developmental disabilities. So it's quite common that people who may be with mobility or physical impairments or psychiatric disabilities may not be familiar with that terminology, because it was first and foremost created, the guides that have been created since then all kind of sprung out of the movement of people with developmental disabilities and how they were referred to in society, which obviously spills over to all of the communities. But it's a wonderful thing that you give us an example, because I think an app would be very helpful for, you know, accessibility checklist, people first language, and kind of in the spirit of the things we talked about in terms of creating greater access. So that's an excellent idea. And it just underscored for me that, you know, just because I have a disability doesn't mean I know about the history and words from every community. So I think that's a pretty a good idea, and I'm looking forward to see what happens with it.
Thank you. I think we could put service animal information on there, furniture placement information. You know, we do all this work to design and construct environments that are accessible, and then human beings occupy them. And when they do, they clutter them up, and
Right.
a lot is lost.
This is Commissioner Lemus. I was just thinking about for some parts of the people in the community who utilize it, you know, there's apps where you can put your phone and it makes a virtual room to design. It could very much, I could see someone creating an app and say and shows what their proposed layout is, and to see if something would just come up with an error code that says and show, like, you know, kind of visually and in words what's wrong, like that the hallway where you put your pop-up store is not wide enough for someone to get through, you know, things like that, which would allow people to at least while they're waiting for a full CASP assessment, to at least have some red flags for them that might make them say, oh, and obviously we would say, you need to consult with the CASP, and the app could say, here's the number.
Yeah, that would be so cool. I would really like that.
This is Commissioner Earl Heston. I wanted to also discuss some ways that we can use some funding for specifically education and outreach. And I'd really like to see not only in hard copy, but maybe more of the visual displays that we had talked about, PSAs, to actually work not only with cities, but also certain associations that deal with access issues, as well as educational institutions. There's a great deal of inaccessible schools that a parent with a disability cannot get to in regards to administration buildings. And I know that for a fact because one of the districts I'm a school board member of is one of those schools, one of the districts that's not accessible. So things like that, I'd like to see, and I'm just putting it out there. As the executive chair of education outreach, that would be one of my goals this year, is to really be able to get information out, I don't know if it necessarily would be in an app format, possibly, but we can brainstorm as a committee at that time. Thank you.
Chair Commissioner Downey, we also have another hand raised by ADA Coordinator Shannon Mulhall of the City of Fresno.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is it appropriate now for me to speak as a member of the public? Great. Thank you, Chris. This is Shannon. Just a quick reminder. I love this idea of an app, but I will say from my own experience, there are a lot of work to develop and maintain and keep accessible, plus the ongoing promotion of to encourage folks to download and use the app. So that's something to consider if you're going there, is that you really need to have someone who's dedicated to the promotion, marketing, and maintenance for that ongoing effort. So keep that in mind. It's not a one and done kind of situation, and apps can break for accessibility so easily, even when you have a qualified person who's developing that, who understands WCAG and web accessibility. So something to keep in mind in terms of an app. And one of the ideas that was proposed to me by someone that I thought was kind of clever was doing a parking signage campaign. So understanding that parking, and signage is consistently in that top 10 access litigation areas. Maybe that's something that CCDA could do, is potentially provide a packet of compliant parking signage for business owners who apply for it or ask for it. Just a thought there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other, this is Commissioner Downey, are there any other comments from members of the public or people, commissioners?
Chair
Yeah.
Commissioner Downey, we have Commissioner Lemus also with his hand raised.
Thank you. I was trying to see how I lower it. Okay. I was hearing the comments from the public. That was very astute. So thank you. And yes, I was thinking about the if we were going to do an app, partnering with some other groups, and there is technology funding out there, and it might be something we seek to partner with the private sector with. So it could be a company that regularly does and maintains apps and already has an infrastructure. Might be something we do with the California Independent Living Centers as a partner. So I definitely agree. It's a much bigger project, and I would definitely think it would be something that we would have to do in conjunction with the private sector, who already has the infrastructure to maintain that and might do that as part of their community giving program to help design and develop a free app. So definitely would love to see maybe an ad hoc committee gets created under education and outreach, where I think that falls. I had a new issue, and I didn't see new business on the agenda. So just for a point of order, when would it be appropriate to raise that?
So under our future topics, if you felt that it was appropriate for future agenda topics, if you wanted to be on that.
What line item is that? Where is that, number 6?
It's number 7.
Okay.
And then,
I'll wait.
okay.
Okay, this is Commissioner Downey. Any other comments on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, I do not see any interest in the chat as well.
Okay.
His hand is raised.
Thank you, Teresa. With that, then we'll move on. If Angela, if you're done, we'll move on to item, what's my
6.
number? I think it's item number 6, strategic goals.
Yes, yes.
Back to you.
Back to me. Partly, I just really proud of the staff in the efforts that has been made to complete our strategic goal for 2021. It has been a true embracing of excellence the entire time. And so I'm extremely grateful to have a team that really has put their heart and soul in trying to achieve our goal and in a timely manner. To present just an opening, I will share that our goal for strategic goal for 2021 was to evaluate the compliance with the CCDA's data collection mandate by researching the 20 through some through the courts of the federal courts and the state courts, all the cases that were collected in a comparative legal database, which is the LexisNexis system. And we compared to what we received throughout the year from the year 2020. What we want to do is get an understanding of the variance of the compliance and the types of possible reasons for non-compliance, as well as if there's anything that could be identified that the law could be how it's written, the law is written, or if there's something that we could help bring forward in our research to our legislators as well as this board. And so with that, we've done a tremendous amount of research throughout the year, and I will like to, at this point, have Teresa present our research findings. Teresa?
Yes, thank you. So with our findings, we were able to identify some discrepancies between the case files that we were able to locate in our portal with our registered attorneys, as well as unregistered users of the portal, and compare that to a legal database, LexisNexis, that we were working with. Specifically, we were able to locate approximately 1,000 records of Title III ADA court cases in LexisNexis legal database that corresponded to our current registered attorneys in the portal that we did not have actually in the portal, but were able to find in our legal database. And furthermore, we were able to locate 1,600 additional records on top of the 1,000 records from several other law firms and attorneys that had filed ADA Title III cases in 2020 that were not registered in our legal portal. And so we also looked at pro se filers as well in 2020 for the same type of category of Title III filers. And although we were able to locate a certain amount that was not statistically significant, it was smaller than we had anticipated. And so based on those discrepancies, we see a great area of opportunity to recommend ways to improve the non-compliance and help educate the legal community on our legal portal, as well as complying with the state legislative mandate. And so here are several recommendations that we are working and partnering with other agencies to develop. The first one is creating a questionnaire to attorneys to address reasons for their non-submission of the Title III ADA complaints. And secondly, we are also working with the idea of interviewing the attorneys to confirm possible reasons for their non-compliance of submitting case resolution reports and complaints for ADA Title III cases. Next, we are also working on our development of letters to the attorneys and to also disability access advocacy agencies to help provide information about the requirements involving submitting ADA cases, Title III ADA cases and case resolution reports to the CCDA, as well as our partnership with the the Department of Public Affairs, as well as the Office of Legal Services. And fourth, we are currently working on our development of our quick reference guide on our website, so that when attorneys do come to the portal, they have a quick snapshot of how to submit the case easily. And last, we also are working with providing legal portal training options for the attorneys and paralegals to help facilitate an easier transition as they submit the cases within the portal. So, and as we considered these options in order to help with the transition of working solely with portal submission of the complaints and the case resolution reports. The next step is also creating a ability to migrate all of our historical cases from 2012 through 2020 into our portal. Really favorable good news. We have transitioned all of the complaints for 2019 and 2020 into our portal. So that's an incredible feat that we were able to accomplish. So at this point, we are now gathering the remaining files. As you can remember, our portal inception in 2019, it is a manual database, and that purpose of the portal was to collect the alleged violations of the ADA cases, state and federal, pre-litigation letters, complaints, and case resolutions. And our data migration of 2012 through 2020, or the prior cases, is our next goal. This is part of the umbrella of the 5-year plan, and our migration goal, data migration goal, is a 2-year goal that we're hoping to help gather in the remaining 29,000 plus cases that are still pending into the portal. And so our deliverables for the next 2 years is to make that transition of the remaining historical records into our CCDA portal, and ultimately to create a real-time reporting tool for the public to access, and also gather information that would help them as well. And as I wrap up this portion of the data migration goal, I will shift this over to Angela for the second part of our strategic goal of 2022 through 2023. Angela?
I'm on mute.
Oh, okay.
They're
No problem.
rolling without the sound. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing. So again, I think I forgot to mention how while we were doing this research, at the same time, we're trying to make sure our portal is up and running as we projected as we started our goal. As she had mentioned, we have a 5-year goal to have a true, robust portal. And when we created it in 2019, it was created, but it didn't have the capacity or the ability to bring in all the old data that we started with. Well, if anybody's trying to do research, a true researcher wants all the information. And as we presented previous years, we said, well, it does make sense to start at the most current old history and then go backwards. And that's exactly what we did based on your recommendation. So at the end of end of 2021, we were able to get 1 full year of historical records. So now this portal does have historical record. And so we popped up the bubbly, that was apple cider, and celebrated of that. But we know that's the next step. We want to get all our records in. And so we're working very closely with DGS, IT services, as well as our consultant we hired to help migrate all of that information in. And as was mentioned through Teresa's presentation, that is our first goal of 2022, is to finish that job, to get every record into that one portal, and to ensure that we can have true reporting on that one portal and no longer manually inputting nothing. So that is like exciting news that CCDA was able to accomplish in 2021. And most importantly, about as we're moving forward in 2022 of moving on and migrating this information, is that we're making it a public-facing tool. So anyone throughout California or the United States, if they access CCDA's website portal, they can do research on our data and can collect information beginning from 12 2012 until the current year of which they're researching. So that's going to be amazing tool that we will not only find ourselves speeding up our time of collecting and doing research projects and reporting of our annual report, which we're working on right now. It gives anyone, which we get all the time, public records requests of people asking questions about our data. I am always been so proud that throughout the time when we were out and about, I would go to an event and I would see people using CCDA's records. They would be on the big screen using our stats. And so we know we want to be able to make it something that everyone knows to be able to use our data. So not only are we trying to educate our legal community to make sure it goes into our portal, but we're also collecting all the old information. And so we have a real true robust reporting tool. So that's great. You can go out and brag about that to some of your friends as you hear and see more about what we're doing with that portal. So as we mentioned, that's going to happen in 2022. We project it may take a year and a half, possibly, to get all the historical record. It is a humongous task that we are, it's nitty gritty work to get all that information in. And so we're trying to be very do our due diligence and ensuring that it's accurate as we put it in. So it takes time. So that's goal number one for 2022, goal for this year. And then as we go into our second goal for the year, and that is our accessible parking campaign. And so with that, as many, Commissioner Holloway and his team has been diligently starting up with their working groups. It's in terms of developing a tool. So we are expecting and planning to really get this tool parking campaign going along. But we understand that our world has said we're going to stay outside. We're going to continually do this type of delivery of services. And so CCDA has launched continually to looking for a strategy of partnerships and communications to ensure that businesses are doing their best effort of communicating and serving the public of which they are residing. And so we're going to partner and throughout, and we're looking at doing some partnering and tool education, such maybe it's a webinar. We've already launched one with GoBiz last year as an introductory, GoBiz and Division of State Architect. We're looking to do that again with other partners to ensure that the parking campaign is being built up around as we build this tool, that we're helping with parking in general for our businesses and our communities at large. So that's our goal in general, number 2, accessible parking campaign. And we're just going to continue to work on that effort going forward in 2022. Questions, comments? So Commissioner Downey, I turn it back to you then.
Okay. And Teresa, are there any, have any members of the public indicated a desire to speak on that topic?
Chair Commissioner Downey, I do not see any members of the public or indications in the chat of wanting to comment.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. So now it's time for item number, is there something there?
Yes, actually, we did have a question or an interest of wanting to understand why plaintiff firms and filers are not keeping up with the submissions to the state. This came from JD Mitchell.
So the question in terms of what we alluded to in Teresa's presentation is that they're unaware. They have this requirement came in law for the legal communities to submit their cases. But if you were an attorney that has not, or maybe just came into law or servicing the communities in 2020, this information may not be something you're aware of. And so we have, part of our strategy is to work with the State Bar to help make it a quarterly basis of which we update this information. We've talked with them. They're interested in allowing us to present information in their newsletter. So we're looking to work with them. We also know that there are some legal, there's some advocacies, legal, disability legal advocacies who would be interested and would be helpful to have this information as well. So we've identified a number of people and organizations because we know it's just wrapped around unawareness. That has been a consistent response when we've reached out. I hope that answers your question or comment. And if not, you would have to type something additional or come off mute.
If
Sure.
I may speak to that,
Yes.
as a member of the public and as an attorney that encounters these suits regularly, I had 6 of them on my plate last year alone. The reason why they don't keep up with the submissions to the state is that it causes them more work and they get less reward for doing so. The incentivization that's under Section 52 of the Civil Code, the $4,000 minimum statutory provision that's there, they can keep up with that provision and get that violation and those statutory damages and stack them. So if they have to do more work, they're not reaping the rewards. We've repeatedly said that, ignorance of the law is no defense. So that they're unaware of it is not an excuse. It's that it's more work for them.
Thank you for your feedback on that. Indeed, we are hoping, and we've actually seen it, where once we've communicated to them, submission was increased. So at this current recommendation is that our education outreach efforts are increased to ensure that they are aware, because we've seen a spike increase just by our communications alone.
Mr. Mitchell, this is Commissioner Paravaglia. Do you have any suggestions about how we might improve this database?
This is not the first time I've heard of it, but the outreach is a good thing, like the commissioner was saying, like Ms. Jemmett was saying. Again, it's a marketing thing, right? It's getting more people to understand and know about it. That's a great role to take. The ignorance of it is the biggest thing that I've seen. I'm currently in the middle of a case right now where the plaintiff's firm has filed 812 lawsuits on behalf of one client in the last 2 years, and over 4,500 of these suits in the last 2 years for ADA and Unruh Civil Rights Act violations. They're boilerplate. They're nearly identical. They just keep going because they found that incentivization under the statutory damages provisions. And getting that database or that recognition out there, that'd be a great thing. I don't know exactly how you would go about doing that. You're talking about building an app earlier. Why not build a social media campaign that circles around that wants people to know of it? Something like that might work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any further comments on that agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, I do not see any commentary in the chat.
Right.
Or any hands raised.
Thank you, Teresa. Then we'll move on to item number 7, I believe it is. This would be any members of the public or commissioners wishing to suggest future agenda items that would be for our next CCDA full commission hearing on January 26th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. I know this is the moment Commissioner Guy Lemus has been waiting for. So if you want to make your suggestion, and then others be prepared.
Chair Commissioner Downey, we do have one hand raised again from Mr. Mitchell.
I'll jump back in if that's all right.
Yes, please, Mr. Mitchell.
Are you guys looking into or pursuing any way to curb the high frequency litigation from firms, lawsuit mills and things that are happening like this? I know there was a finding under Senate Bill 1186 that came out 2012, 2013, which referenced, 55, 58% of the lawsuits were filed by a handful of firms. In my experience, personal experience here, it's just exploded. And there's a limited number of firms that are filing the vast majority of these suits still. Is there any way to impose a greater filing requirement? I know under the high frequency litigant filing requirement, there's a $1,070 filing fee that's there. Is there any way to increase that? Is there any way to, I don't know. I'm a defense attorney, so it really bothers me. I'm also disabled, but that's not going back to the people first language. That's not how I identify. So it's just constantly getting out there. Is there any recognition from the council, you guys being the executive committee members, to look into this sort of thing now that it is rampant and completely out there?
Well, this is Commissioner Downey. I'm taking that as a suggested topic for discussion in a future meeting. Is that the case, Mr. Mitchell?
That would be fantastic if I could put that on the suggested list.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
But in general, that is the work of the commission. So we'll continue. So any other items?
Sure, Commissioner Downey, we don't see any comment in the chat or any hands raised.
Yeah, Commissioner Lemus' call dropped and he was trying to get back on, so.
Okay.
I have just admitted him back into the meeting.
Well, knowing that he had a topic for this, I'd like to hold
here.
for him. Terrific.
I'm sorry, the call dropped off and I was trying to get back in. My apologies.
Sure, Commissioner Downey, we do see Commissioner Dillard's hand raised now.
If you don't mind, let's proceed with Commissioner Lemus while he's on to hear his comment on this future agenda item.
Thank you, Commissioner Downey. Over the past couple of meetings, we had some very involved parents of individuals with disabilities or students with disabilities who seem to be bringing up a lot of very important program access issues. And what I would define under the ADA as Title II issues with the government, meaning a school district. That has not traditionally been our area of focus. The area of focus has traditionally been first and foremost Title III along the lines of businesses and architectural access in the community. And I thought that it was clear, since we had newer board members who encountered members of the public who have somewhat organized themselves and came to our meeting and spoke a lot during the public comment, at some point I felt like we needed to loop back. And as a person who's advocated for kids with special education needs for 21 years, I don't say this to diminish those issues, but I am concerned that we may be misunderstanding our role with respect to that piece. And I think that before I just sit there and prescribe it or dictate it, which I'm not trying to do, I think at the executive committee level, we certainly should have a conversation and be on the same page as the leaders of the board with respect when those items come up, because it kind of felt like we were a sympathetic ear to an issue that, quite frankly, we're not going to be spending a whole lot of bandwidth on. And I would much rather have those parents know where they can take their effort and it be utilized in a way that I think would give them a bigger bang for their buck, as they say. And speaking to some of the entities that deal with the oversight of that system. And I heard our chair of the outreach and education today also mention access to the school district office, and those come under Title II. And so I think that, you know, we've had this discussion ongoing. It predates me even, about how big are we? Do we do program access? And I think our hearts have always articulated we want to do program access, architectural access. But I think the reality of the board has been somewhat defined in its scope by the body of work we're required to do and some of the statutory language. And so I just think it would be maybe helpful, because we have a lot of new board members and we can't assume that they know anything of the previous conversations, and now they should be part of the ongoing conversation, because I think it's going to continue to come up. I would suggest that we have an opportunity, one, to kind of, we're already talking about our strategic plan today, but also understanding what is the scope and limit, as we all kind of see it, with respect to what it means when we talk about disability access in the context of the commission's scope of responsibility and oversight. So I think I think what I ask or request is that we have an agenda item that gives a little background and history from staff and from some of the senior board members who've been part of this conversation, particularly Commissioner Paravanya and myself and Commissioner Wheely, and then allow for us to have questions and some dialogue amongst the executive committee members, and hopefully then with some suggested approach to, I think, a group that we haven't really been responsive to, because it's not clear, is this the right venue for you to come to seek assistance or support. And I just feel like when people organize at that level, we owe it to them to at least be clear. And I think before we do that, we all need to be on the same page. So we are in consensus about that. Hopefully that makes sense, what I said.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemus. That does. The one clarification I would ask is if this suggested agenda item is for the executive committee's next meeting, or is it for the full board on January 26th?
Well, as I think about it, I do think that the full board should also kind of have the conversation, which would allow members of the public to hear it. I just think that it would be more efficient for us to kind of have a run through with at least the executive committee and the leadership, so we're clear on the same page, and then share that with the rest of the board members, and if there's additional comments at that time, and then it gives the members of the public, including the parent group, to kind of have a formal response to what I've now heard at both take place at committee meetings as well as the board meeting. Because what my main concern is that I don't want education outreach to become a special education committee, because that's who's populating the public comment. And so I think that's why I think we need to have some conversation. And if we don't ever speak to it, they're going to keep coming, assuming that we're going to do something. And I don't think that's fair to them.
Right.
So that's
agree
all I
with-
want to be clear. Yeah, I hear that's Commissioner
Commissioner-
Al-Hassan for the record.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As
Go ahead,
as
Commissioner.
a chair of the Executive Outreach Committee, they have been reaching out and coming to our meetings and wanting to meet with me outside of our commission meeting to kind of go over their proposals and making sure that their voices are heard in regards to quote unquote access. So I think it's important to have clear boundaries and definitions of how we proceed as a body in regards to access. And if we are then just looking at one specific area and not being inclusive of education or academia, then we need to refer them to, we need to be ready to do so though. We need to have collaborative partners who are going to be actually stepping up and addressing it versus having them fall into the black hole, which many times happens. And that's where the anger and frustration ends up coming. And that's what I'm hearing from this group at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hassan. This is Commissioner Lemus again. We're on the same page. And in that vein, my thought would be to invite Disability Rights California in particular to that meeting, one of their attorneys, because that's where I used to work for years, as you know. That's exactly what they do. They get technical
They are
assistance.
independent.
Huh?
She was in attendance, so.
Yeah, I mean, in a formal way, once we
Yeah, I see
respond
what
what
you're
our
saying.
scope is, there are a number of special education advocacy groups that do systemic issues and architectural access support and technical assistance. And I think that that's going to give them more ability to move forward on something and get proper advice as to how to move forward, as opposed to our volunteer board. So, but I think we should still discuss it and how it plays out. That's just an example. There's some other
Exactly.
groups that I can think of, but I want us to all be on the same page at the executive committee level. And then once we are, I think we can better, in answer to your question, Commissioner Downey, to how that then plays out at the board meeting, which I think we have a role in kind of orchestrating how that gets presented, how the conversation happens, and how then that staff follows up with that group.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you, Commissioner Lemus and Commissioner Hassan, for your comments on that. Let's so that's now suggested as a agenda item for the next executive committee meeting, after which take action, but then with the recommendation to move on to the full commission. That would be in April thereafter. So any other items, suggested agenda items for our for the January 26th full commission meeting or future executive committee meeting? Hearing none.
Commissioner Dillard had his hand up.
Oh, that's right,
but he-
Commissioner Dillard. Excuse me. Sorry
but
about
I
that,
bu-
Commissioner Dillard.
But I do believe he had to leave,
Oh.
so I will follow up with him personally.
And please extend my apologies, since I jumped to Commissioner Lemus, not wanting to take the risk of him dropping again. Yeah, and then I lost Commissioner Dillard. So, if there are no other members of the public or commissioners that would like to suggest a future agenda item, I'll then move on to agenda item number 8. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. If I could have a second.
Second.
Let's see. I got a clear read on Commissioner Lemus on that. I know he wasn't the first, but I got a clear read on it. So thanks. Thank you, Commissioner. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
All opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Yes, and as was said, please stay safe, healthy, and happy. All right.
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.